It's a real pleasure and honor for me to address this important panel on education and disruption in education. And I like the word disruption because disruptive creations are very positive and useful disruptions. Sometimes we forget that this term, the disruption, is not or does not mean the same thing as disturbing. It's a completely different concept, which means having something new take the place of something existing. And that's why we always should welcome disruptions in all technologies, because technology only moves forwards. There is no way in technology to go back. This is the great thing about technology, it only moves forwards. And in my old life, in my previous life, I had many occasions to talk about this very important change that is needed in education. I chaired at the United Nations a committee called ISAR, which meant International Standards on Accounting and Reporting. And that was a global committee for talking about rules and requirements for providing correct information. And that was in the year 1995. At that meeting, I was very impressed with the American delegation, because the head of the American delegation at this conference in New York, at the UN headquarters, made a presentation under the subject, the need for change in education. I said, you mean development of education? And I meant to ask that question so that we could clarify to all the participants that what we need is not to develop what is there, but to change it. And we took very constructive guidelines in that direction. I was then asked again to speak in Berlin about another important subject at the conference called Online Educa Berlin, and that was in 2010. And the subject there was, and I am very impressed with that, I was very impressed with that subject conference on technology-supported learning and training. Wonderful statement, wonderful theme, because at that early time, although it was not early enough for me, because I started talking about the need to change education since almost half a century in educating, and I chaired the education conference of the International Accounting Standards on education in accounting. But whatever we can say, I can say that there is nothing more important in life than education, because even more important than food and health, because with education, the proper education, you can have better nourishment, better food, and better health. It is not just a track on its own, it's a track that supports the improvement in health and improvement in life. We are at a very important turning point now. Finally, the world has come to realize that with the advent of the digital revolution, digital age, the knowledge age, whatever you want to call it, we need new education. Education cannot stand alone and resist what we call digital transformation. The digital transformation process applies to everything in life. Everything in life. We have to go digital. And I want to be very clear that you don't misunderstand me when I say change in education. I'm not talking about moving on to online education. We're beyond that. Online education is a temporary and intermediary step to digital education. Digital education does not mean just sending messages to learn or to teach. It means a lot more than that. It means that we will have no books printed, we will have no texts, we will have no writing, we will work on all subjects of study digitally, from a digital teacher, digital books, digital students, and producing digital education. So it's a whole world, and I wrote about it in my book on the inevitable digital transformation, or the inevitable digital world. And I explained in that book, which has just come out, and it's for free. I'm not marketing my book. I circulate it for public knowledge at no cost. And in that book, I explained that everything is going to be digital. The city, the cars, the doors, everything. So I am talking about moving into digital education and not just online. Fortunately, our good friend Corona gave us a little shock and alerted us to the need to go online in education, which is only a first step to digital education, as I said, but a good and welcome first step, which I have been finding resistance for at least 3 decades in trying to explain and promote the transfer in education. This is a very important session, your panel, and I'm glad we have on this panel experts on the subject of education, and I'm sure they will be able to provide more knowledge and more information than I can, and that we will start or help at least in the disruptive process of moving from classic education, which we call in Arabic al-Kuttab. What we are now teaching is a process of Kuttab. Students used to sit on the ground. The teacher has a book from which he reads. The students have to memorize, and the students would pass an exam to say that they are good memorizers. That's our classic education is nothing more than that. That is past tense. We don't need students who graduate having studied and memorized a lot of facts and information. It's useless. We need to produce students who are innovators, creators, and who can not just memorize things, create new facts, new knowledge, and new techniques and new technologies. Thank you very much for listening to me. I am honored to be among you.